For more on this, we can speak to our international affairs commentator, Douglas Herbert. Doug, good to see you. These are ambitious new aid initiatives. How exactly are they going to work, and are they going to be enough?
And why are we hearing about? Why are they necessary? Why do you need a maritime route to get aid in? And the easy answer to that question is because the road and the air initiatives to date have proven just not viable in the current context. What is the current context? It is intense, ongoing fighting and bombardment in southern Gaza by Israeli air forces, by Israeli soldiers. That fighting, if anything, has gotten more intense, and we have the looming Rafah land invasion. You have over 500,000 new refugees from the north in Gaza packed into a city that had a fraction of that population beforehand. You have World Food Organizations and UN aid organizations basically warning of looming famine in Gaza. So when I say they have not been able to get the food in through the trucks that have been allowed to get in, the aid organizations accusing Israeli forces of essentially, what boils it down to, of obstructing enough trucks from being able to get in. And we've seen the airdrops. The airdrops looked great for video clips, right, on social media, but they were more symbolic than anything else. It's a trickle of what is needed. So you say ambitious plans, very ambitious, to try to get a sea corridor, a maritime corridor from Cyprus to Gaza. Now, it's not going to just pull up to some port in Gaza. It doesn't exist, and unload the food, and there you go. Everyone's going to be well-fed and happily ever after. Not at all. You have the U.S. This project's going to take weeks to set up this temporary port. It's really more like a floating pier. It's going to involve actually that pier being built on U.S. ships because no U.S. troops are going to be boots on the ground. None of them are going to be in Gaza itself. So you have to build that floating pier, that jetty, if you will. You have to then get the food, the medicine, the water, the aid, brought it in by ships to other ships, and then somehow bring it to this floating pier, and then the distribution nightmare begins. So it's one thing to get it great, get it to the floating pier. There's the food, there's the aid. Then what? And even if you have the miracle that the distribution somehow, the logistics are worked out, and people do start to see a lot of that aid, it's still no substitute, not me saying it, the aid organization saying it, no substitute for the overland routes, getting more trucks in, being permitted to deliver that aid to the populations that desperately need it.
Yeah, Doug, you were talking about those airdrops being sort of a, big image, very symbolic. This too, sort of politics seem to be at play here because the U.S. Biden administration made this announcement just before Biden's State of the Union address.
Obviously, Joe Biden, this is one of the biggest looming, perhaps roadblocks, obstacles, the perception among a large number of Americans, and especially the constituencies who helped build his coalition, his winning coalition in 2020, younger Democrats, more progressive Democrats, Arab Americans, Black Americans, all of these right now, a lot of these constituencies are the very ones who are most incensed at what they see as Biden's unjustified, as they see it, unconditional support for Israel. And yes, we do hear Biden. We could hear his own frustration because from Biden's perspective, from the White House perspective, they're bending over backwards to make it clear, including in the State of the Union, that they very much are incensed with the Israeli government. Yeah, they are upholding its right to defend itself, but they are incensed that the government hasn't, as they see it, let more aid in. And they have basically laid down the gauntlet to the Israeli government. Joe Biden himself said, let's just hear what he said. He laid down the gauntlet to Israel in the speech last night.
Leadership of Israel, I say this: humanitarian assistance cannot be a secondary consideration or a bargaining chip. Protecting and saving innocent lives has to be a priority.
It's a strong message, right? I mean, Biden can justifiably say that he has been trying, at least rhetorically, to bring as much pressure to bear on Israel to let that aid in. The problem is Israel isn't listening. Benjamin Netanyahu, to date at least, by all appearances, seems to put more of a premium on keeping his coalition together, which means doing the bidding of his far-right, ultra-nationalist, ultra-religious coalition partners, than on listening to the United States, which is their policies basically being no-goes for this far-right coalition. So Israel's not listening to Biden. At the same time, he's up against it in the U.S. with the progressive Democrats and the younger Democrats who are incensed at this policy. So will this help? My hunch is that it's not really going to help that much, because simply letting aid in or setting up a mechanism to get more aid in is not what a lot of the Americans who are so angry at Biden want, which is a ceasefire. And you saw some congressmen, some congresswomen holding up signs last night during the State of the Union, lasting ceasefire. That's what they want, and they want it now.
Yeah, it's